Electrocast.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want your connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Hey, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to let you know that you can now grab my album of guided meditations. It's called Sourced by Spirit and it's on all streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, YouTube Music, and many more. There's 11 guided meditations ranging from 4 minutes through to 10 minutes to help you reset your mind and your body at any time. Okay, now let's get on with the show. Beate Chelette is the growth architect and founder of the Women's Code and provides visionaries and leaders with proven strategies, blueprints, and growth maps that provide clear steps to improve business systems, strengthen leadership skills, and teams so that clients and audiences can maximize profits and scale their impact. A first-generation immigrant who found herself $135,000 in debt as a single parent, Beate bootstrapped her passion for photography into a global business that licensed content into 79 countries. She exited in a multi-million-dollar deal when she sold the company to Bill Gates. Join me as we explore this incredible story, along with real actionable tips for growth and success. Welcome, Beate, to the Ethical Evolution.
I'm excited to be here. This is everything I want to talk about, Bindi.
Yes, I'm super pumped to have you here today. Now, for those people who don't know what you do, can you go ahead and tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, so my name is Beate Chelette, and I'm known as the growth architect and the founder of the Women's Code. I live in Los Angeles, and I help people to align spirituality with strategic success in the areas of business growth and personal leadership, because let's face it, really successful people all have a spiritual practice. And how good is money if you then don't have anybody to enjoy it with? So we may as well enjoy more here moments so we know when we get there.
I love that. And, you know, there's been a lot of conversations I've had recently on the show with people who've said, oh, you know, I've had all the success, I've had all the money, I've had all of the growth, but I just wasn't happy. No doubt you would see this a lot in what you do.
Yeah, I think that you know, I had this like moment. So now I'm a grandmother. So my daughter had a baby, and there's this moment where my daughter came over for dinner with her husband and little baby Kayliana, and my husband's daughter was there with her, you know, her husband. Wine was had, everybody's laughing. I cooked some beautiful lamb with some I think it was actually a New Zealand lamb, I want to say.
Oh, nice.
And right, and the baby fell asleep, and my daughter says, "Can you put her down in the crib to sleep?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not. I need to hold her." And so I'm sitting there and I'm holding her, and, you know, I'm watching this like perfect face, and, you know, and her soft, gentle breathing and the lip shivering and then, you know, whatever they dream about when they're like not even a year old. And I had this conscious recognition of this is there. I'm in a beautiful house that my husband built. My daughter speaks to me. His daughter speaks to him. They're all here. They're laughing. We can afford a nice meal. We can afford a nice bottle of wine. We have money in the bank. I have this beautiful grandchild in my arms. This is what everybody wants to get to. And at that moment, Bindi, I thought to myself, I got to tell people how to not blow up their lives. So that when they get there, they'll have the I'm there moment instead of the, well, now I'm there and there's nobody here. Because I think that's what we do. We have this thought that if we were to do this and that and achieve this, that then when we are there, then somehow automatically all this other stuff will fall into place. I work with a lot of people that have a lot of money. And I will tell you, that's just what that means.
Yeah.
They just have a lot of money. They still have all the other things. They still have the extra pounds. They still need to go work out. They still have relationship issues. They still have fertility issues. They still have issues with their kids. They still have everything else. It's just that society tries to tell you that if you have money out of the way, then you somehow stripped off the right to ever have another problem in your life. And it is not so.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Like we think, oh, when I get the money, all my problems will be gone. You know, I'll be fit, I'll be healthy, I'll have the love of my life.
How cool would that be?
It's like it doesn't work like that, does it?
No. It does not work like that at all. As a matter of fact, what happens is you have money and all your problems.
Yeah.
And then other people are looking at you in a different way, and other people are looking at you like you somehow don't belong like you belonged when you were struggling with money. And they don't take your problems as seriously because you have money. Therefore, you can't possibly have any problems, because if you don't feel good, you can go pay for a therapist. If you're overweight, you can hire yourself a nutritionist and a fitness trainer. So what is your problem, really?
There's just a lot. We could do a whole episode on that alone. But when we talk about growth and growth mindset, how did you get into what you do now? Like, tell us about your story and how you got to here.
Yeah, so my story is quite the crazy story. You know, I'm original from Germany. I came to the United States because I have significant trauma and abuse in my childhood, and I always say there's a reason why I'm on the other side of the world. And my abuser, my mother, you know, even coming to terms with that actually happened, and that I was victimized as a child, but I choose not to live as a victim. That's a whole other, you know, that itself is an episode by itself. But at that time, I just needed to get away, and I knew that I needed to be in a land where there was freedom, so I choose the United States. I had a career as a photographer and photo editor, so I've always been in the creative arts, which I absolutely love. And then I went into photography representation, photography production. I was working with great clients, Mercedes-Benz, Levi Strauss, Wrangler. I mean, I really worked hard over quite a period of time with a lot of setbacks to get to the point where I was at the $1 million. I'm in the 4% of all entrepreneurs, and I think I got it made. And then a lot of bad stuff happened. My employee came up with a plan how to run my business without me, came to a close with a key vendor. That resulted in a lawsuit because I was stupid and I just didn't know better that nobody wins except the lawyers. And then I had the production season and I thought I was going to make it. I was deep in debt. And then September 11th came, and within one day, my production business was done. I mean, it was just over. And I had to figure out, what am I going to do now to get myself out of this debt I was in? The lawsuit settles. I paid everything. And I literally, Bindi, I look at my bank account. I went to the flower mart. I got some flowers from my attorneys. And I had $50 left after I paid my debt, you know, paid the attorney, paid everything, and then there's like nothing left. I'm like, well, that was really a bad decision for me to make. And then I had to start it all over again, and I'm going back into debt, but I have this brilliant idea of the stock photography syndication. And I was able to really hit a market that was ripe for what I was doing, but I had no money. So now I'm borrowing money to pay interest on borrowed money, which is, I think, called the death spiral of finance. And I go to Germany, drum up some business. My father has a stroke. My father did not have a stroke. My father had pancreatic cancer. My father dies in 6 weeks. And I'm standing at the grave. We literally just put him in the ground. My phone rings. It's my office. We've been served a notice. I'm losing the house.
Oh, my God.
And in this moment, we talk about growth mindset and about defining moments and surrender and trust and all the good stuff. I just fell on my knees and I yelled at God. And I'm like, you know what? If you have a plan, this would be a really good time to fill me in because this just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you get to the point where you say, what the heck is this all about? And I knew I had to just surrender because I'd done everything. There was nothing else I could do. I couldn't make any more phone calls. I couldn't go anywhere. This was it. It was over. And then I get a letter from the White House, Bindi.
Oh, wow.
The White House from the President of the United States. And it says the President is delighted to hear from you. Now, let's just be clear to all your listeners. The President of the United States never saw this letter. But what it did do is that it was sent to the Small Business Administration, which is a government organization designed to help small businesses here in the United States. And it went to the second in command because he also got a letter from the White House. And then he thought, I should speak to the nutcase that writes to the President of the United States instead of picking up the phone and calling me directly, which never even occurred to me. So he says, all right. He said, could you not just have picked up the phone? I said, I didn't even think about it. And they helped me find a bank that restructured my debt into a 10-year fixed loan, freed up my line of credit. 3 months later, I'm break even. 18 months later, I'm the world leader in my category. A Bill Gates company comes, knocks on my door and says, can we buy your business? And I said, sure. And they said, how much do you want? I said, I want a couple million. I said, fine.
Wow. Oh, so when you surrender, look at what happened.
Yeah. Well, I've had an interesting conversation on this. Actually, I want to talk to you about this because I think you have probably for your audience an interesting spin on this. Does surrender not feel like defeat sometimes?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because you have to let something go.
Yeah.
That is not yours. You have to detach from the outcome. After you, of course, have done all the actions. And then there comes this moment. I compare this to when you take the crappy beat up Toyota that's in your driveway and you just bought yourself a new car, but you have to take the car out of the driveway. And there's this moment where there's nothing in the driveway and you're flipping out, right? Yeah. It's like, what if something happens? What if the car's not coming? What if it's delayed? They say it's coming next week, but can I trust that? And you flip out because what you called in hasn't come in yet. And then the second part after surrender really is to call in what you need to call in. And that part, I think, is very difficult for most people, especially when we talk about growth mindset, is to say the surrender part. I think that's difficult, but doable. But then to get from surrender to the trust to say, well, all of this just fell apart so that what's mine is not coming, it's already here, and I'm in the process of unpacking it. I think that is the big challenge we see with a lot of people right now.
And this is where we get into manifestation, isn't it? Like where we are purposeful with our intention. And, when we've let go of what's not meant for us and we make space for what is, and actually are very intentional about what we want. Like when we put that out into the universe and that's part of our mindset, it can only become a reality because that's your focus. That's where your energy is going and that's what you're calling in. And I think a lot of people, they just focus on the loss and don't think about, okay, there's space here for what I actually really want and need, and they don't head towards that. So, I've seen, and I've talked about manifestation heaps of times on this show on how I've made things happen. And people are like, you get so much done and there's so much that changes for you. How do you do it? And I'm like, I've stepped it out in different episodes, but Like, it can be done. Like, the story you've had where you've gone from literally nothing. I also was once bankrupt, homeless, the whole 9 yards. But you need to focus on where you want to be. And not worry about the how. It's just focusing on that end point and believing that you're already there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that what also makes a big difference when I listen to Abraham Hicks is that the idea is that there's an energetic vibration, that you really need to focus on the vibration.
Yeah.
So, which is why music is so important, and which is why I took this moment with my granddaughter. So when I now have this moment where I feel that my energy is going down, or this previous person that I'm leaving behind, that I'm no longer wanting to be, that I choose to not be, when this person comes back in through my subconscious and the trauma and says, well, remember the 595,000 times you didn't get it right? That's when I think about this moment of how I held my granddaughter and how I have this feeling, this just feeling of joy. And literally every day, and maybe I'm just a junkie, I go into my photos and I bring up little videos of her and I look at her, because I know that when I do that, I'm immediately in this overwhelming gratitude of what I was able to create in my life. Even though in this business and now with the changes I've done in the last 6 months, the cash flow is not where I want it to be yet. I need to be able to put myself back into this vibration of receiving, and I can do that when I go to this particular moment. And so I always encourage everybody to say, what is this moment where you have this overwhelming joy? Is it that you're hiking? You know, I was watching a documentary yesterday of a woman that has done the summit on Everest multiple times. And there's this one scene where she's on top of the mountain and she says, there's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
So for her, it's that moment. So she mentally just goes to what it feels like to summit. So whatever that is, you got to have that moment. You can't say, I am manifesting prosperity and I'm manifesting, it has to be that overwhelming emotion that comes attached with having such a rich experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you can tune into that vibration, that's where you're in that flow state where things just start to happen for you, when it's effortless. It just happens and you're like, look, that was all meant to happen because that was my intent. You're making me think about a recent conversation I had with my good friend Zara Carson, who has written books about happiness and all kinds of things like that. And we were recently talking about growth mindset. And we hadn't seen each other for 2 years. We've done a lot in 2 years. And we were talking about, people in our lives, you'll not see them for 2 years and they've done nothing during that time. But people like her and I, we're like, we've done this, and we're like rattling off all the things we've achieved in those 2 years. Do you think there's also this part of the mindset is actually the value of life and how precious it is, and like we only get one go at this and we've got to make the most of it?
I do. I think for me, and what I see is that you get to a point where you realize that there's mortality.
Yeah.
And mortality is either by having a massive change in your life, or something happened to someone, or something happened to you, a scare, maybe a health diagnosis, or something where you went and you said, that I need to start taking a little bit more seriously. And then you realize that without this connection to a deeper spiritual meaning, that you're going to be screwed when you die. And my mother's 90, and my mother is a Lutheran, an evangelical in Germany, who now finds Catholicism more interesting. And I think she does it because, as a Catholic, you can just go, I screwed up, and then you pray 4 rosaries and you're done, right? So So penance is just freaking amazing. The Catholics really got that figured out. You know, you don't even have to talk to anybody. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to ask for forgiveness. You don't have to make amends. You just go in church. You pray a couple of rosaries, one Our Fathers, and that's it. You hope. And yet, in all of this praying she's terrified of dying.
Yeah.
So I don't think she has a really deep spiritual connection, because I think she is praying to a God, but she is not within that one source energy. And those are two different things. And I see it with my mother-in-law, who's 93, who has been controlling her entire life by just this willpower that she has. I always say to her, from all the meddlers I've ever met in my entire life, you by far are the best one. And she can't do it anymore because it's not working anymore, because her body just will not allow her to focus on other things other than this transformation journey, her final transformation journey that has clearly begun. And she's terrified because it would mean for her to let control go over something she never really had control in the first place. And while she is spiritual, but she also has no deep connection. And so I look at these things, Bindi, and I go, what do I need to do now so that I can connect with one source? And I like calling it one source because some people get really nervous about God.
Yeah.
And when you say a religion, they freak out, and, you know, and then you have to make explanation. But when you say one source, right? If I say one source, if there's an oak tree that knows when to move its roots aside to let the seedling come through, if there's intelligence in a plant that does that, imagine if we get out of our own way, what we could accomplish.
Yeah.
And that is one source. That's the energy that rules everything, because how is that even possible? And I think that this is the part where you now need to make a conscious decision. And I mean, all your listeners on this podcast obviously made that decision already, and please do tell everybody about this, is that when you get there and you don't have this connection to one source, you don't know what that other side feels like. You've never experienced that piece of a deep meditation or an ayahuasca journey or a psychedelic journey or a mushroom or a prayer or deep yoga or silent retreat or whatever that might be, or chanting. If you've never experienced that deep, deep, deep sense of peace or that feeling of oneness, you're screwed because you're going to be terrified to get there. And that to me is worth all the effort now, to say, I can't go to the end of my life and then not have this other moment of gratitude where I say, look what I created for myself. My daughter's here, my grandchild's here, her husband's here, my husband's here. You know, so if I don't have that conscious recognition of the achievements that I have had, if I then focus on the other stuff, that sounds like a horrible exit.
Yeah. Wow. That is such an interesting way to look at it. And I guess, you know, that if you can find that peace, it helps you in that transition, doesn't it? Like, wow. Yeah, that's a whole episode.
Because then you know where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's when you know I'm going to this feeling of peace and connectedness and being back in this energy. I'm going to be everywhere and nowhere all at once. And then you go, well, that's a little bit of a crazy radical concept. That's a really, really big concept. You can't get there in a year. This is years and years and years and years of studying, of practicing, of going deeper one step at a time. Because if you don't buy into what society tells you to do, buying a whole bunch of stuff from a whole bunch of marketers so that your life will be finally complete, if you could take it out of yourself and you could heal yourself and you could connect with that energy, a lot of people would be out of business.
Yeah. Wow. Imagine the landscape if things were around that way. That'd just, the whole marketplace would fall over, I think. Now, I want to change tact a little and talk about more of this growth architect stuff that you do. In particular, like if there's people listening at the moment who have a message or they have a business that they're trying to get out there, but they just can't seem to cut through the noise and get some authority out there, what would you recommend they do to sort of cut through and get the attention of people?
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want your connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Bill Gates.
Yes. So there really are 3 steps to the process. And, I make this very, very simple. I don't believe in overcomplicating things. You first have to build the business model.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say you need to buy stuff. I said you need to build the model, then you can buy stuff. But you first build the business model. Then you figure out how you can grow that business. And then once you've done that, then you can scale it.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be very clear where you are at, because I see people that don't have a business model yet that want to scale it. And then they go, I don't understand why I can't automate this. And I say, because you have really nothing to automate.
Mm.
Because you automate processes and systems that have proven to work. Because we have to figure out what works, and then we have to duplicate and replicate that and build a process behind it so that we can continue to do that. So these are the 3 steps. So the first thing is, I would tell everybody who's listening to this podcast, you got to be very clear where you are at right now. Which of the 3 phases are you in? And then the second piece is, I have something that I call the 5-star success blueprint. And I'll be happy to take your audience through this. It's going to take a few minutes, very quick. It has only 5 words on it and a bunch of questions to ask yourself. In the 5-star success blueprint, I looked at what is a full transformation journey. How do we create this full transformation journey for somebody from the beginning to the end? And so the first step of the 5-star success blueprint is your idea. You ask yourself, what is the idea? Who needs this idea? Why do they want to buy from me? Why am I the right person to sell this? And what problems do I solve for the people with this idea?
Yep.
The second step is, then and only then, when you answered all of that, are you building the offer, because then you know what you need to build to solve the problem that they're having. Then you build the offer, and the offer has to solve the problem for that person. And it has to be explained, it has to explain why you are the one who's making the offer, not somebody else. We call this the unapologetic value proposition. When you've made the offer, then and only then are you building your systems. Because then you know what you need to do to get this offer consistently in front of the people that need it.
Mm-hmm.
Then and only then are you hiring a crew or a team. Because then you know the people that you need to operate the systems that bring the offer to the people whose problems you can solve. And then you look at yourself as a leader. This is then when we get into the scaling part. And as a leader, you say, who do I need to be so I can lead these people that are managing those systems that are bringing that offer to the people we solve problems for? And if you are listening to this and you go, I feel like I'm a little bit in trouble here and I don't know why, you probably have missed something, or you probably didn't ask yourself some of the hard questions. And if that's you, you can go to uncoverysession.com and schedule a complimentary uncovery session with me directly, 15 minutes. I can pinpoint this super fast and help you out on where that's at, if that's interesting to you. But that's typically where I see people get confused because they don't know what comes in which order. So something typical that happens is they'll go on the internet and they look at something, how do I grow my business? Then somebody comes up that sells an online course or speaking from stage. And then they spend a lot of time on this and convince themselves, if they only knew, you know exactly where I'm going with this because I see you nodding.
Yep.
If they only would, have this speaker course and speak from stage, that makes perfect sense. They're in a room full of 200 people. They're speaking. They're all leads. Great. then I'm going to be rich and famous in no time. But you didn't realize that you need a lead generation. That's the next affiliate offer. And then you need to create traffic. That's the next affiliate offer. Then you need to have an online course to sell them. That's the next offer. And then you still need to figure out how to get the funnel and do the funnel hacking. And that's the next offer. 3 years later, $75,000 later, you still don't have a business because you never built the business model, grew the business model, and scaled the business model. You're looking for the one thing that somehow magically connects all three of these. And that just doesn't exist. It's not the way this works.
If there's someone listening at the moment and they've got their idea, like they've got a blueprint for exactly what it is they want to bring to the world, and they know the problem they're going to solve, they know the people they need to reach, but they're thinking, I don't have the capital to get it off the ground. What would you say to them?
Well, you need money to make money. So you certainly can bootstrap a business, but you got to be clear that you're either going to put time or money in learning.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to pay someone, you pay with your time, and you pay with the time that you're not making money by learning. That's a conscious decision you make. My job as a consultant, your job, Bindi, is we get people to the crossroads to say, you certainly can do this on your own. The information is all out there. I mean, anybody says otherwise lies. The information is all out there. Everything is figure outable, as Marissa Murgatroyd, I think, says. You can. But how much time do you really want to spend on this? Sure, I could, be a contortionist and wax my own legs. But do I really want to go and buy the waxer and kind of, burn myself 15 times so I get the temperature right and throw my back out when I do the back of my, do I really want to do that? Or is it worth $50 to just go to the wax and get it done and I'm out in 15 minutes? What is your time worth? That's a decision you have to make. You're paying one way or another. And if I can, let's say there's a product that we have that, is called Turn Your Talent into a Business, where we built the business model where people have ideas and we help them to figure out how do you take this actually to market. And it's $3,000. So I can teach you this in 8 weeks and you'll have a business, or you can spend 2 years trying to figure this out. What do you think is cheaper, ultimately?
Yeah. And this is where, budding entrepreneurs probably need to do their research, because, they'll get stuff marketed at them, like you said, with all these funnels and hacking and all this kind of stuff. And then they end up nowhere. They end up wasting their money and their time, and they still don't have their idea off the ground. And I've seen so many women in particular who've been trying to start a business later in life, and they have sunk so much money into coaching and courses and stuff that are not even relevant to where they want to be. It is so important that you find someone who knows what they're doing and can actually deliver results.
Yeah, well, there is this thing, it's called ethical persuasion. It's marketing language. It's if I keep you in the FOMO, fear of missing out, if I keep you in that place of I alone can solve this, and again, I had to really think about this at the beginning of the year after my deep spiritual journey, and I let my sales guy go because there was just something about that just didn't feel right anymore. And I said, I don't want to use ethical persuasion. I'm going to tell people what I do. I'm too old to wanting to spend the next 5 years with you. I really don't. I'd rather, if I have 15 minutes, I'm going to FaceTime my granddaughter. But if I spend time with you, I'm going to give you what I know. I'm going to give it to you in the shortest possible amount of time. I certainly made all the mistakes for you, so you don't have to make them. It is entirely up to you. Let's say for this particular program, and we have other programs that are more expensive, but let's say you decide for yourself if you think that's worth $3,000, if that value is there for you to save yourself 2 years and probably $30,000, in other programs that you will buy from here until now because you're so freaking frustrated that you think buying something randomly that sounds good. And not to say that the business model very well may include you speaking from stage. It may very well include an online course. It may very well may include a funnel. But you don't know this because you have no idea what the product is, how you want to bring the product to market, and what the audience that you're selling to is going to react to. And you have never tested anything.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And in terms of the people that you work with and the results that they've seen, can you share a little bit of results for us?
Yeah. So we one of the people that I really liked working with was a woman that was designing frameworks for search engines that utilize AI for luxury brands. And when she came to me, she said, listen, I know what I'm doing. I'm a data scientist. I'm amazing at what I'm doing. And she is half of the stuff she said I didn't even understand because it's all this jargon and lingo. And she says, I need to put a signature system together so that I can explain to my clients who are not data scientists on sort of what happens in each one of these phases. And I need to line out what these phases are. How am I going to take them from here to there? And we built her signature system in literally 4 weeks. And then she closed a $50,000 job the week after.
Wow.
Because she knew how to talk about it. She knew how to articulate what it is that she was solving. And it's all in her head. It's like, I'm not going and implementing anything in her head. I'm just crawling around in there. And I'm with my little flashlight and I'm looking where the stuff's hiding and I'm helping you pull it out and then put it on paper. Then I was working with a woman just a couple weeks ago, and her business idea is to create summits for women that need to build their list that are early in the consulting and coach stage. Brilliant idea. And we, also built her system. And then, and as we're going through that, and I have obviously processes and systems, and we do it and we whiteboard it. And I mean, it's this stuff is real strategy. And so she's looking at this and she goes and she says afterward to me, I feel like I didn't do anything. I said, no. I said, I was in your head. I'm just pulling the stuff out. They said, this is all yours. I said, this doesn't exist because of me. This exists because it's been there ready to be pulled out. I said, I'm just helping you assemble this. I said, this is I said, well, fine. Herewith, I give you permission to claim ownership of your own stuff. And she says, oh, thank God. And then she realizes that there were other things in her personal life that were hindering her of being as successful as she wanted to. And we put the whole thing on pause for 3 weeks so she could take care of her personal issue. And now she's up and running. She's got her products in place. She's got the names in place. She has the price points ready. She knows the transformational journey. She has a subscription model. She has a one-on-one coaching model. She has it all outlined. All she now needs to do is sell it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And this is it, like once you know the formula and you just follow the process and the steps, the results will follow. And I've seen so many women in business who try to be everything to everyone as well. And I think that is a big fault. Like I know I was one of those back in the day, and I just went, I'm not going to do the things that I don't love anymore. Like there's so many things I can do, but doesn't mean I have to do them just because they make money. And so when you get into that niche and you focus and you're really on point with your message as well, because like there's people you ask them what they do and then they'll just throw out this word vomit and you're like, but what is it? It's, if you're not clear in your message and what it is that you're trying to offer people, they're not going to buy it.
100%. And sometimes it's a little scary. So, we really went, and after, again, the spiritual journey, I looked at the message that I got, and it was to align strategy with spirituality, which in a lot of people's minds is the opposite. I mean, how can you be strategic are you strategic or spiritual? But I believe that spirituality is really a strategy because it is the attraction and it is the allowing and the receiving and the coming in and the not fighting. I mean, you're still going to have to do the work.
Yeah.
But you're going to allow things to happen and come to you. So, and then when I said, okay, fine, as a German business strategist, now I'm suddenly aligning spirituality with strategy, and everybody goes like, WTF? What's your problem? I thought I was going to get a hardcore logical strategy, and now we're doing all this woo-woo stuff. But if I look at people that are really successful, like look at a Tony Robbins or really look at anybody that is at the top of their game, they all have a spiritual practice. They all do. Otherwise, they go nuts.
Yeah. It's becoming more evident in every part of our lives, whether we're healing or we want to grow or we want to achieve anything in our lives. It's a critical part that we've really got to make sure that we include in our tool belt, I guess, for us to get anywhere authentically.
100%. And I actually think that there has been a mass activation where, and only people that have been activated know what this means, but I see people having conversations about spirituality and purpose and meaning at a level that I have not seen before.
Yeah.
And from places that I never thought would happen. I mean, I facilitate for a high net worth investment group, and I'm having these conversations with people that are 37 and had multiple 8-figure exits. And they don't want to sit on the beach with a drink with an umbrella in it. They want to step into the purpose because they're somehow recognizing that they've had this event for something else to happen. And then let's look at our political climate and let's look what's going on in the world. I don't think the value system of what we hear out there could be further apart from what we're feeling inside.
Absolutely.
And how does the transformation happen? It always happens with free enterprise. Because we cannot expect a broken system that breaks people to do broken things is going to fix anything. It just doesn't work that way. So there has to be pressure from people that come with the money, with the knowledge, with the intelligence, with the innovation mindset that are in such large numbers that the pressure pushes this old stuff out. I mean, here in the United States, what's happening is it's just crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's the whole reason why I created this show and I do what I do, because I could see years ago that this wave was coming. And so I wanted to gather all the people who were conscious to have these conversations and actually amplify them, because for me, it's all about collective change and we all do our bit in our own way. And, back, I think it was before the pandemic, it became really evident. I would say, what I do today impacts your tomorrow. We're all on the same planet. We're all in the same home. We are all one. And the sooner we wake up and recognize that and look at how our choices impact everything we do and everyone around us, that's just an awakening we all need. And so that's just the whole mission here, is to have these conversations and sort of wake up a bit, to what we're actually doing, because there's so many of us that are living our lives. We're not in them. We're on autopilot. We're not conscious. And before we know it, we're at that stage we were talking about before.
We did. Yeah. We're miserable. And, or what? The goal of our life then is to buy an RV and
no thanks.
and be on campgrounds.
Yeah, no.
In an armchair or something. I think that the most powerful thing comes from purpose, really. And
life is hard, but finding a really great podcast makes the days go by so much easier. Hi, my name is Blue Telusma. I'm a writer, an emotional intelligence coach, and the host of Humanize with Blue Telusma, a podcast where we believe that when you humanize everyone in the room, a great conversation is almost guaranteed. Join us every week here on Electricast as me and my guest co-hosts unpack big topics and interview even bigger personalities with a sense of humor and a dash of mischief. If you're looking for a new best friend in your head, we've got you covered. Electricast.
Especially for women, we are up against so many additional judgments. I'm going to be 60.
No way.
In a very short amount of
No
time.
way.
That in itself is just shocking. And then I thought about what woman is out there that's 60 that's still making sort of an impact on a scale, right? And I don't want to be judgmental, but the image of, the woman with white hair and the purple flowy dresses and the 5 cats at home, that's what people think of women that are my age, but I'm nothing like that. I don't even have a cat. And I thought, am I up against the impossible in here or where, and this goes back to my 5 Soul Success Blueprint, who is attracted to something like this? Where does wisdom come in beneficial? Well, it only can come from the perspective if I'm the grandparent or the mother that they wish they had. Then my brand has value, because then they can go and say, I have my friends that do all of that, but she's done it. She can give me the outline. The sexy, cute stuff, I'll go to the, whatever, my buddy Monica, who was 35 and drinks glasses of Cabernets with cute babies crawling around in the kitchen while she tells you she can make in 4 hours a week $10,000. But that's not my brand. And I think we also have to be very honest as we're building our businesses and how we are utilizing where we are at and what the purpose is of where we are at in our lives. And then I'm thinking sometimes, wow, if I'm 60, so that means in 5 years, am I technically retiring? So what's it even going to look like? My husband's 68 and he goes, am I old? I'm like, well, that's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. But we don't feel that way. We're always around entrepreneurs. We volunteers in the entrepreneur organization. We mentor. We facilitate. We want to have these discussions, and we want to take what we have worked for so hard and give it to other people. And I think that's what everybody needs to figure out for themselves: is are you here for now, for you? Are you here forever, for all? And then how does that change?
I love that. And yeah, that's a really great question to ask yourself. What are you here for? Again, coming back to impact and what you leave behind, I think, for one, I can't believe you're nearly 60. You look amazing for 60, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm nearly 50, and I'm at that stage where I'm kind of like, oh my God, are we here already? And that's why I guess I'm sort of looking at how can I, 10x that impact that I'm making even more so, and what is it that I leave behind?
Yeah, it's stepping in my opinion, it is stepping into wisdom, and it is stepping into really the sharing, the education. I think a lot of people that are around 50 still thinks that the short skirt and the being in competition with the cute 30-year-olds and, forgive me, the perfect lips and the eyebrows and the lashes and the whatever goes into that look. You certainly, with a lot of money and effort, can keep that for quite some time. But after 50, it gets difficult. And after 55, it gets even more difficult. After 60, let's just say gravity is not your friend. And if you don't make that midlife shift in your brand and in your messaging, then you're attracting the wrong people, because then you're no longer believable. because then you're not attracting the young people because they know you're not young. And then you are attracting sort of also all kinds of other people that are in that in between. I really wish I'd be something else other than what I really am. And that is a very, very hard transition. And I think these transitions happen when you are from 20 to 30, not so much at 40. Definitely happens when you're 40 to 50. And 60 is freaking brutal. just from that physical aspect of stuff. Now stuff happens you have no control over.
Yeah.
You just don't. And then you go, well, how do I show up believable? How do I show up honest? Who do I want to attract? And so we did this experiment on YouTube where we taken our podcast and we started an entirely new channel from scratch. And I have 2 other channels that have about 3,000 subscribers each, but this was really not going anywhere. And so we started from scratch, and I wanted to really have that sort of badass grandma, coming from wisdom, shortcut kind of brand. And our audience on this new channel, and we are, I want to say about not quite 2 months in, is 95% men between 25 and 40.
Really? Wow. Yeah, there's this shift going on of, I don't know, people are just thirsty for knowledge, and people who know what they're talking about. And there's something about women over 40 where this wisdom kicks in, where we basically don't give a shit what anyone thinks anymore. And we have carried so much.
We have cellulite. We have wrinkles.
Yeah.
We don't care.
We've carried so much and learnt so much and carry so much wisdom that I think that is so underutilized. And I think this is a really key area we're going to see evolve in the coming decade, I reckon.
I agree with you. And this unapologetic stepping into it, but then again, let's go back to your original question. In the 5-Star Success Blueprint, what can anybody do that needs to make this brand adjustment? That's the question. Who are you? Why you? Why now? What is it? Why does this matter? And who does it matter for? And that changes.
Yeah, it's incredible. I could talk about this stuff all day with you. I'm absolutely loving it. But if people want to find out more, where can they go?
Well, so the first thing I would like you to do, if you have an idea about a business, go to my free quiz. It's called whatsyourtalentworth.com. It takes literally 3 minutes, and I've created a profit formula where it spits out an amount, which is your earning potential in this market. Like literally, I really channeled this formula where I was like, okay, if I were to be able to tell people how much money they could make with their profession and their experience, how would I do that? And it was just like boom, boom, boom. Like within an hour, I had it all figured out. I'm like, well, thank you, God. and then I set it all up. So it's a really kind of a cool little quiz to figure out what can you make? And then you're going to look at what you are actually making and what your earning potential is. And there will be a discrepancy in 99% of all cases. And then you need to think about on whether or not you want to do something about this. And if, I've said it earlier, if you've heard something, you go, I really need to speak to her, just schedule an uncovered session at uncoveredsession.com. Happy to talk for 15 minutes. And I always say, the call is like whatever comes through. I'll give it to you. If I can help you, I'll tell you. If I can't help you, I will tell you. And if I know somebody who can help you better than I do, I will tell you.
Amazing. So just to recap, if people want to do that little quiz, where do they go?
whatsyourtalentworth.com.
There we go.
And the other is uncoveredsession.com. And if you Google me, I think I'm the only person with this name, Beate Chelette. I'll come up everywhere, or as the growth architect. All over social media, LinkedIn, just say hello and pop in.
Amazing.
And while we're at it,
yeah,
will you please go wherever you pick up this podcast?
Yeah.
Give Bindi a 5-star review and leave a comment. And here's why the comments are so important. Comments are measures by algorithms if there's engagement. And even if you put just a little heart in it, saying that you listened to this episode up until here, it makes all the difference in the world. And share this episode maybe with one person who needs to hear something that we were talking about today, because it is a labor of love. Let's give Bindi some love back.
Oh, thank you. That was lovely. Yes, please go do what she said. Thank you.
What she said.
Now, I've got the last big question for you. I'm really keen to hear your answer on this one. What's the change you'd like to see in the world, and how can we bring it to life?
I think the change I would like to see is that people would be able to tap more into their own intuition and spirituality, and realize that where we are at right now is literally just a very short amount of the journey, that you can't take it with you, right? So you have to make the experience work. And that's really where I've been focusing a lot more. I call this the here moment, so you know when you were there, but really pay attention to your here moments and call them out. So if you see the sunset, say, I'm having a here moment. If your partner tells you you're the most beautiful person I've ever met, it's a here moment. If someone comes running out of nowhere, gives you a big hug, a here moment. Start collecting these here moments to really get consciousness on how grateful and blessed you really are.
I love that. I am going to start creating this massive bank of here moments every single day. I think we all need to do that, because imagine the energy that we're going to put out when we do that, and what's going to attract back to us. There we go. If you can learn anything today, let it be that. I have loved every second of this. Thank you so much for being a part of the Ethical Evolution.
I'm so excited that we had this conversation. Thank you so much, and you keep up the great work.
Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's growing every day with great content and highlights you may not have heard on the podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, and why not leave a 5-star review. If you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Ethical Change Agency on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube, and at DJ Bindi on TikTok and Instagram.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electricast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electricast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electricast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electricast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast. Electricast.